Hey everybody, Shawn here from the Automation Blog and School, and in this episode of the Automation Podcast, I sit down with Matthew Lawson from MDT to get up to speed on their AutoSave product. Matthew, thank you for coming on the Automation Podcast to tell us all about MDT AutoSave. It's a product that's been on the market for a long time. It's widely known out there, and I'm excited to learn what's new and exciting in the product. I haven't really seen it in a while, so you'll be catching me up today and catching up the audience as well. Now, before we get started, could you first tell us what your role is at MDT and then jump into your presentation?
Sure, Shawn. Thanks for the opportunity for being on the show. My position here at MDT Software is the Director of Technical Operations. I lead our field service and engineering team, a bunch of engineers who install our software at multiple sites around the world. I also lead our module development team. Our module development team creates the drivers that interface between the third-party vendor software or devices and the AutoSave system. So let me go ahead and get into the presentation for you guys and tell you a little bit about MDT software. MDT is the inventor of automation change management software. Many years ago, we started documenting the PLC programs out of the original Allen Bradley PLC. And customers asked us, what are the differences between these large documents on paper that we had? And that was the beginning of automation change management. From there, we started supporting the PLC2, the PLC3, the PLC5, and now we support the broadest range of editor and devices in the industry. Over the past year, we were purchased by HG Capital, who owns over 30 software companies, and together with our sister company, Avesi now, as we align our products and technologies, we plan to provide a better solution for our customers going into the future. This is a list of customers that we have right now, and it's not by far the total list, but it is a short list of names you may recognize. We have automotive to food and beverage, mining to apparel companies in here, water utilities to pharmaceuticals. We play in all sectors, all industry verticals out there in the market. So a little bit about what MDT AutoSave does. It basically allows you to avoid errors by undoing those changes that you may make down when you're working with your automation devices, such as PLCs, CNCs, and HMIs. It allows you to recover quickly if you lose that program. Disaster recovery is an important part of our product, as well as change notification. Validating the program you're running in the processor or in the device versus what you have in your central repository is very important to make sure that rogue changes aren't being done to your devices out in the field or in your plants. It allows you to prepare and detect and recover from cybersecurity threats that we see so often nowadays in the industry, having quick access to those backups, being able to tell exactly what's changed in the PLC, who changed it, why they changed it. All of these lead to a better cybersecurity reduction in risk. And then you can view this program activity, whether through the AutoSave client or a new web-based portal that we've just released recently. As far as device support, we have one of the largest suite of devices out there. From ABB to Emerson, Fanuc, Siemens, KUKA. We just introduced a new solution with Acronis to do those PC-based images of maybe your HMIs, whether it's a panel view or a comfort panel from Siemens. And the list goes on. Robots are also a popular thing that we've got out there. Just recently, answering a question, I realized that we had over 30,000 Fanuc robots under support with MDT AutoSave. And this grew from the old RJ2s back in '95 to the latest R30s that are out there today.
Yeah, and I want to jump in here for our podcast audience and just on the slide there. There's also support for Microsoft Documents, like Microsoft Office. There's support for Rockwell controllers, Omron controllers, Schneider Electric, ProSafe, Mitsubishi, Motorman, in addition to the Siemens and the other products that were on the previous slide. So if the audience is listening, if it's an industrial automation controller, HMI, or device, this list is extensive. So you can't see it, but I just wanted to pass that on to you. It's a very extensive list.
Absolutely. In addition to that, we'll talk a little bit more later about what we call our universal suite of modules that allows you to come up with your own solution. So a lot of our customers, even though this list does have a lot of devices on it, it's by far not all the devices that we can cover. If you have your own sort of scripts that you've created, or if you've got anything that goes over a standard communication protocol such as FTP, we can back all those things up as well. Talking more about the universal suite, there's 4 different modules that we offer in this category. The universal module, which we've been doing since the start of AutoSave, basically lets you back up any file on any PC that you have. So if it's a Windows file, we can back it up, we can version control it. If it's a folder of files, if it's a specific file list that you want to create for yourself and save it as a single revision of something, you can use the universal module to do it. And it has built-in capability for compare. It'll do text-based compares, side-by-side text-based compares for binary files. It'll tell you if it's the same or different. It'll even do graphical compares. So if you have JPEGs or GIFs or things like that, it'll give you a picture-based compare highlighting what's different in the picture. That will communicate over Windows Shares or SMB protocol. We also have an FTP module, which is very popular for robot controllers, but there's other FTP-based devices that are out there. The ARMS module, ARMS is an acronym for AutoSave Remote Module Service. What that is used for is devices where you can only back up the device from the device itself. And if it has a Windows-based operating system or HMI, such as a CNC controller, you can install a service from AutoSave called ARMS on that device. It can do the backup locally and then pass that backup back to the AutoSave system. And then, of course, there's the scripting module. And the scripting module allows you to create any of your own devices in any language you want. So if you're familiar with batch files and you just like making a DOS-based batch file, it'll fire that off. If you like PowerShell scripting, you can create a PowerShell script and we'll automate that and take the resulting files and save it back. If you like to do C#, you can make a C# executable and we'll do that as well. In addition, you can run other utilities such as WinSCP to handle SFTP, TFTP, SCP, or other protocols that may be out there for backing up, let's say Cisco or Scalent switches or other automation devices in your plant. So let's talk a little bit about how AutoSave works. So we're going to do a little bit of a use case here, a day in the plant, if you will. And so once you get everything running perfect, obviously it's lunchtime, your guy walks out of the plant. And the contractor, of course, that's the time he comes in and wants to update one of the machines, right? And you have no record of what those source code changes were. All you know is that, it may not be working the way it used to when you come back from lunch. And then, of course, there's the old new hire who comes in, likes to shake things up a bit with his experimental code. And maybe that decreases your performance and quality on how things are working out there. And then you've got everything else, right? An accident. Of course, a forklift hitting a PLC may not occur, but it could. But whatever the disaster may be, to that PLC that is requiring you to replace it, you've got a loss of source code in that processor because the processor is now dead. It's bricked. It's not working anymore. And that equals downtime, and nobody wants that. So what do you do now? You come back and you see this mess that you have there and you're looking for a solution. And this is where AutoSave could come in and satisfy all of these use cases that we just talked about. If you have that contractor come in and he makes the change to the device there, AutoSave on a schedule that you pick can go out and check what is out there in the device. It'll upload from the device. It'll take what should be from the AutoSave server, do a compare, and if it sees that something's different out there, it'll send an email and let people know. And what's in that email? It's a record of what those changes are. So if you've got an RS Logix 5000 controller, you're going to get an email with a link to a PDF that has the output with the changes that they've actually done. So you can see a contact was removed in this particular case. If it's a Siemens Step 7 controller, in a very similar way, you're going to get a nice graphical output that differences were detected, and it's going to highlight those on the rungs that they've been changed on. Going back to the use cases, we've got the user who was the new hire, if you will, who's going direct to the PLC. But in this case, if you train that new hire to instead use the AutoSave client, now he's going to log in, he's going to select the program, perform his edits, and we're going to make sure that one, he has user permissions, and two, we're going to have what he has before and after. So when he downloads that code, being a new hire, it still may not be the right code, but you can immediately come in and check what he's done. You can get the program from that device, compare it to what's in the AutoSave server, and if necessary, put the program back to where it should be very quickly. And finally, if you have that accident, if you have that hardware damage, if you have that fault in the processor, it's a simple matter of just repairing and downloads. So you go to your spares, you get that new PLC, you come back to your AutoSave client, get the copy of the program from your AutoSave server, and you're up and running. No more searching for who has the latest copy of the program on their PLC, which of the 13 different ACD files on my client is the right one. AutoSave has you covered with the latest, the greatest, and the right program to get yourself back up and running.
You know, you say here, you think about, in my experience, how many times a plant has called me. They have dozens of PLCs, but they never took the time to back up any of the controllers. And then one day, one of the PLCs loses its memory and they have no printout. The people who made the machine are out of business. And all they really didn't know is like what the machine does. And the cost to try to write that program from scratch, I mean, we're talking weeks of downtime, weeks of an engineer on site. It literally, in many cases, those machines are just never used again because the cost is just outweighs the profit of what that machine could produce. And this is definitely a solution where no problem. You know, you lose the program in the controller, no problem. We have it on the AutoSave server. It's there, and it's ready when you need it. Like in the case of the animated, the people on the podcast can't see it, but the animated forklift taking out the PLC. It's just so needed. If you have lots of PLCs and they're critical to your process, you have to have either this or you have to buy one of your people all the software and make sure they're going around manually doing it. It's a must in today's day.
That's right. Especially, and our sales team, of course, can help with ROI calculations because they do it all the time. But we've heard time and time again over the years, you know, this looks great, and it's something that we've got to get. We probably won't get it right now. And then 2 months later, they're calling us back and saying, you know what? We just had a down PLC. We were down for like 8 hours. And when you're talking about a consistently running process, putting out either, you know, hundreds of cars per hour or, you know, thousands of pills in a pharmaceutical plant, you're talking a significant loss of downtime to try to find the right program and put back the right program and make sure you got the right version of that program. So it's definitely something that everybody should consider.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about the AutoSave architecture. The AutoSave server has 3 components to it. It has the IIS or web component where you're going to see your compare reports. It's got a SQL database and it's got a data directory. The SQL database will hold the metadata of the system. The data directory will hold all of your program revisions. Of course, the data directory and the database can be remote if you want to store those on network storage or SQL farms that you may already have in the plant. In addition to this, on these workstations and laptops, You would have the AutoSave client, very similar to having an Outlook client with an Exchange server for your email. You have an AutoSave client for all your programs on your AutoSave server. Then we have the AutoSave agent. The AutoSave agents are what you schedule to actually go out and check your programs in the field. So they would be scheduled by the server. You set up that schedule, and at such a time, let's say you set them for 12 midnight each night, they would be enabled to automatically start uploading from devices and comparing what's in the AutoSave server that we have there.
Now, do you have benchmarks for those agents? In other words, if I have 2 or 3 PLCs, that's one thing. But if I had 1,000 PLCs, I could see that a single agent might have a problem trying to upload all of those overnight.
Absolutely. So we do have spreadsheets and we have calculations that you can do it. What I like to tell customers is an AutoSave agent, think of it like a person that you're hiring to sit down in front of a PC and start doing these updates or uploads and compares one at a time. So let's say for a PLC 5, you've got like 20 of them, and each one takes 5 minutes to upload, do a compare of 2 programs. So if you have 20 of them, you have 100 minutes. If you want to get that done every night, you probably can do it, because that's really only just a little bit more than an hour and a half, right? But if you have now 1,000 of those devices, you're talking about 5,000 minutes. So now you have to consider, okay, for 5,000, I may need 10 agents, or I can use 5 agents and do my checks every other night. Or I can have them run 24 hours as opposed to a 4-hour window in between 2 10-hour shifts. So there's a bunch of metrics that the customer needs to decide what makes the most sense for me. And then there's the actual physical limitations of actual time that it takes to do the uploads and the compares. And the field service engineers and the sales teams at MDT can help you come up with those calculations way ahead of time before you install the system, so you're prepared for making the right decisions for your site. And there's new technologies coming out each and every day. So Siemens, through their openness, has come out with new sort of audit flags, and we can check those bits, if you will, to see if anything has changed in the PLC, which is much quicker than doing an outright upload and compare of 2 programs. So by using the new technologies as they come out, I see this as getting much faster going into the future, and a much more common approach, so that you can do a quick scan across all of these like audit flags, if you will, to see if anything's changed. And if there is a change, that's when you go grab those things out there. So those are starting to appear in the industry across a lot of the vendors, and we're taking advantage of those for your AutoSave systems. Okay, so a typical workflow on how AutoSave would work. What we've got in the top in the AutoSave server is what we call our current copy, or you could think of as the current working version that is in AutoSave and down in the device. So a user would come into an AutoSave client, he would launch and log into the AutoSave system, and it would check his credentials, obviously. And then the AutoSave client would appear. He's got a tree just like a Windows Explorer that he can build up in the best way that makes sense for his site. And then it's got all the revisions on the right. He picks which device he wants to work with, in this case, a Siemens TIA PLC. And AutoSave is going to send down a copy of that program to his local box and launch him right into the editor. Now, AutoSave is going to wait and monitor. We don't interfere with what the user does in his programming software, such as this. But when he's done, we're going to pop up a dialog box that says, please enter a comment. What did you do here? And this is very important, because this is the why did he make the change that's going to get recorded. And once he enters that and presses OK, then that revision is going to go up and become the new current working copy in the AutoSave system. So that's a typical operation. So you can see it's a couple of extra mouse clicks as opposed to just launching the program directly, but those couple of extra mouse clicks are going to give you a lot of protection, a lot more information, and a lot more security. In addition, of course, it can notify people via email that that program has changed. Now, this is a scheduled operation. This is what the agents would do. And at a certain point in time, they would get a copy of a program from the AutoSave server. They would upload from the device and do a compare. And if it does find a difference, you can have it save that revision back up to AutoSave and let everybody know that there's a new copy up there. This auto update functionality allows you to keep your AutoSave server up to date with what's in the device, especially when you have perhaps OEMs or contractors coming in making changes to your devices. And the notification helps you keep aware of what's going on in your facility. So now Todd McKee from MDT is going to do a short 5-minute demonstration of our product. And then I'll wrap up with a slide or two afterwards.
This is the AutoSave App Center. This collects all the various AutoSave apps in one location. The main one is the network client here, and I have it minimized down below. So this is the main AutoSave interface. Over on the left, you have your directory tree, and you build that out as it makes sense to you. Typically, it reflects the layout of the plant. But when you want to work with a program, you find it in the tree. This is a Schneider Control Expert program, but it'll open up a tab down at the bottom with the program name, and then each program will have its own revision history attached to it. And as you can see, each revision's got the date time stamp, the logged in user, the client computer they were on, the operation they performed, and whatever comment they enter in. If you want to make a change, create a new revision, you would click the rocket icon at the bottom, which is launch. And we can see in the upper right, a program lock was put on the program. So it'll be read-only for everybody else until I'm done. And it's now pulling down that latest revision from the server down to my computer, and it's going to open up the editor. And once it does come up, then you make your changes like you always have, as if AutoSave wasn't there. And I will make a quick change. You can make as many changes as you'd like. And when you're done with your changes, just click Save. And when it's through saving, just exit out of the editor. And as the editor is closing, you will be prompted for a revision comment. So enter in what you did. And so now when I click OK, we'll see the program lock get removed, and we'll see revision 47 get created. There goes the lock, and there's 47. And for any revision that you have in your history, you can right-click and you can compare that to what's running in the device, or you can compare any one revision to any other. So I'll go ahead and compare 47 to 46, and we should see the change I just made. And in the case of Control Expert or Unity, we utilize the Unity Diff program to run the compares. And so here's our report, and it shows we compared revision 47 to 46, and you'll have a link to see the difference. If we scroll down, we should see the difference highlighted. There it is in green, it looks like. And then go down further, and you can see there's the contact I deleted. And the same process as far as doing a launch and creating new revisions and running compares. It's pretty much the same whether you're running Schneider, Rockwell, Siemens, Mitsubishi. The same general concept is the same. I wanted to show an example. Here's a Siemens Step 7, and I'll click and we can see a ladder difference. I also changed the data block so you can see that how that'll show up. So here's an example. You can see we compared tag value. You can see the highlighted difference. You can see an application script difference. Lastly, you can see the actual window difference. So the details are highlighted down below, but you can get a quick just visual look just from the pictures at the top. And those are, you can enlarge those as well.
Thanks, Todd, for that presentation. Just a couple more products I wanted to talk about for AutoSave here. A couple of things that we have either released or coming out here. The AutoSave portal was just released in AutoSave 7, and it's a new web-based interface that allows you to see all the metrics from your AutoSave system Very popular with most of our customer base as a quick pie chart or graph can show you what's going on in your plant. As we go down into the future here, a REST-based API will allow other systems to also use some of this data so that it can be a very important cog in your wheel of cybersecurity that you have in your plants. AutoSave for non-network devices, if you're the type of user that actually goes out into the field for maybe 2 weeks and you're working on that gas or oil pipeline in Alaska, or you're out in the field in Australia and over a 2-week period, you're changing maybe 20 or 30 IoT devices, right? And then when you come back, it's hard to remember which of the 100 devices you've changed. Well, AutoSave has you covered. We have a synchronization process, allows you to check out multiple programs at once and then identify automatically all those ones that have changed so that you can put back your comments all at one time. So that's available out there as well. Our new Acronis image backup solution that I talked about earlier really allows the people on the plant floor to have that IT-based power of a Acronis, but to back up maybe their panel view or their comfort panels that they have there on the plant floor, have that single interface of AutoSave and not have to learn a total new system, but have a great image application like Acronis to perform the operations for you. AutoSave for System Platform is our endorsed product for Aviva for their System Platform product. It tracks changes in real time as you make changes to objects and templates in System Platform. It gives you the undo button that you don't find in System Platform, and it makes sure that you have total control over all those changes that you're doing. And finally, cybersecurity in general. As we add more and more data to AutoSave, we're putting in things like firmware, processor version, the programming software version. And when you get alerts from customer or from vendors about, this particular firmware may have a cybersecurity threat, now you can go to AutoSave and figure out, hey, what firmware is being run out my PLC across the 1,300 or so PLCs that I have? Which ones do I need to get updated? So as we move into the future, addressing more and more cybersecurity threats, you're going to see AutoSave become that tool that is really helpful to address those needs. So that about covers it up. If you need more information on AutoSave, you can go to our website. We've got a media gallery there. You've got demonstrations, product videos, white papers, industry blogs, and more. And Shawn, I really appreciate you giving me the time to present here and hope this is beneficial to everybody.
Well, thank you, Matthew, for coming on the show and giving us that overview and introduction to MDT's AutoSave. I really appreciate it.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode. I want to thank Matthew for taking the time out of his busy schedule to put that together and come on the show. With that said, if you're watching on YouTube or theautomationblog.com, please consider giving us a like and a sub. And if you're listening to the audio-only edition on iTunes or Google or Pandora or Spotify, TuneIn or iHeartRadio, please consider giving us a 5-star review and subscribing, because that really helps us reach a broader audience as well as find new vendors to come on the show. And if you want to follow me or get in touch, you can do so over at automation.locals.com. With that said, I want to wish you all a very happy, safe, and healthy week. And until next time, my friends, peace.